Okay, so we're live, I think. Yeah, pretty sure we're live. It is 11:38 p.m. on a Friday night, 10/20/2023, and I think we're going to go over some of the Delphi debacle here. I don't want to say debacle because it's really not a debacle, but it's, again, getting pretty interesting, if it can't get any more interesting. All right, so let me play my intro, and I'll be back shortly. All right, so here we are. Obviously, I'm not outside. This is a backdrop here. My bird, actually, that's my bird. It's raining again on Friday night, my only night off, and of course, it's going to rain. So I am inside. And we're going to go over some of this news dropping this week with the Delphi crap, and then there's a couple other cases I want to get to tonight. But I may have to split it up into two lives. So first things first, what I want to do is actually let's get some house cleaning done. Two things. One, that's my bird right there. Okay. I don't know if anybody knows who Karen Lee is. Karen Lee is an awesome person, and I made her a mod on my channel. It's my bird. But I've known Karen Lee for a while. She's a great person, and thank you for being a mod. I just wanted to say that. And the other thing is, I'll be going on again early tomorrow morning, 3 or 4 o'clock for another live. Don't know what I'm going to do, but I usually do two lives. One now going over true crime cases of the week and a deep dive early in the morning. So, all right. So what I want to do is I want to go to the press conference last year. And this is when they came out with their, I know everybody had to wait the weekend for this press conference, but this is the actual press conference from when they arrested Richard Allen, and came as a shock to a lot of people, I'm sure. But I wanted to go over this because I think it's important for what's going on the current moment here. So let's do that. So this was done October 31st, almost a year now. And they arrested him with 2 counts of murder back on October 31st. I think they actually arrested him a few days before that. But all right, so here we go.
Sergeant Jeremy Pierce, Public Information Officer for the Indiana State Police Lafayette Post. I'd like to thank you all for being here and thank the Delphi United Methodist Church for allowing us to use their facility. This morning, we're going to provide an update on the investigation.
One thing about this press conference is the audio was good, except for Doug Carter sniffling 5 or 6 times every 5 seconds. The audio was really good.
Investigation into the murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. Before we get started, I'm going to introduce to you our speakers, Superintendent of the Indiana State Police, Doug Carter, the Carroll County Sheriff.
And I think this person right here, this lady right here, you'll see her better when they switch angles. But I think she's the lady that actually walked across the,
Tribesman. It was.
Morning. My name is Sergeant Jeremy Pierce, Public Information, and the Carroll County Prosecutor.
She's the person that actually found the tip, I think. Could be wrong.
Nick McClelland. I'd like to remind everyone that this continues to be an active and ongoing investigation.
Nice
At the conclusion of this press conference, we are going to answer a limited amount of questions out of respect to the investigation and the process that will follow today.
Hi.
We will not discuss evidence that is related to this investigation. On behalf of the Delphi Double Homicide Task Force, thank you all for your continued support.
And this is the prosecutor here, McClelland. This is Toad, the moron. This is Doug Carter.
I would now like to introduce to you our first speaker, Superintendent of the Indiana State Police, Doug Carter.
So that's her right there. I think that's the person that actually found the tip.
Give me just a second here. Seldom do I have prepared remarks, but today is different because I do not want there to be any confusion or ambiguity with what I will say. Today is not a day to celebrate, but the arrest of Richard M. Allen of Delphi on 2 counts of murder is sure a major step in leading to the conclusion of this long-term and complex investigation.
I put the link to this in the chat, so if people want to go over this, review it again, it's easy to find.
First, I'd like to speak directly to Anna, Mike, Becky, Kelsey, your extended families, along with the entire Delphi community that certainly has grown and now includes our nation and even many countries around the world. I am proud to report to you that today, actually last Friday, was the day.
I mean, I don't have a ton of subscribers, but I have the best subscribers, I think. And Karen Lee is just fantastic.
And an arrest has been made. Thanks to literally hundreds of media outlets that have been steadfast in reporting and keeping the memories of Abby and Libby front and center. Many of you in the room have developed relationships with me personally, and you know I always have a personal perspective, and today's no different. But from a very personal perspective, you all have provided inspiration and support, even while oftentimes frustrated with us and me. You continue to encourage the efforts, and you too believe that one day we would all be here participating and sharing this news.
So I'm going to jump out of here for a second because I want to put this up. I think it's important to do this because, whoops. So this is Abby and that's Libby. These are the 2 people we're talking about here. For me anyways, this case has always been about these 2 people. And it will never be anything else but for these 2 people here. So I just wanted to share that to everybody, and we'll get back to the press conference. I think. I think that's why it's so frustrating, to be honest with you.
To the entire law enforcement community, which includes all local, state, and federal agencies, which are far too many to specifically mention today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We are going to continue a very methodical and committed approach.
I mean, people went ballistic when he didn't mention the FBI in this. I remember.
To ensure that if any other person had any involvement in these murders in any way, that person or persons will be held accountable. Far too many to specifically.
I want to play this again because this is very important. Don't forget, this was last year.
Mentioned today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We are going to continue a very methodical and committed approach to ensure that if any other person had any involvement in these murders in any
other person involved in these murders in any way,
that person or persons will be held accountable.
This was part of his, speech in here. So he's basically reading from an orchestrated thing here. He's not just going ad hoc here. He's reading off of this that was prepared.
Since the murders of Abby and Libby 2,086 days ago, the daily investigative team has worked tirelessly and is certainly worthy of mention today. Specifically, Sheriff Linsonby, the Sheriff of Carroll County, Detectives Tony Liggett, Detective retired Kevin Hammond, former Delphi chief and now the prosecutor's investigator Steve Mullins, State Police First Sergeant Jerry Holman, Detectives Jay Harper, Dave Vito, and Brian Harshman, along with members of the United States Marshal Service, specifically Agent Jeremy Clinton and Agent Bill Colfers. With them today is Dan McClain, the U.S. Marshal, appointed U.S. Marshal. Our state police analyst, our scientist from many different disciplines within our laboratory division, Mrs. Kathy Shank, for your incredible dedication.
Kathy Shank. I think Tom Webster calls her the Shankmeister.
To detail, and to so many others that I know.
See, in my opinion, at this point here, they arrested Rich and Allen the Friday before this press conference, and it came as a shock to law enforcement too. Like they had no. This is just my opinion now. They had no idea this guy even existed, and they were just as shocked as everybody when everything kind of came together here and aided to his arrest in this case. So they're at this point in time, they're still investigating what his role is, if there's anybody else involved, all of that shit right now. So that's why he's saying it's really not a day to celebrate. It's a step in the right direction. But at this point, I think that they didn't have any clue really who this guy was. So they needed to really, and I think that's why they held the PCA up too. All right, so I want to stop this for a second, and we will criticize you to no end. All right, so I just want to kind of point this out because I forgot to do this earlier. So this is when it comes to staging and all of that stuff. In their review of 5,224 cases, Keppel and Weiss found that staging occurred in just 0.1% of the sample. This is all about staging crime scenes. But more recently, however, although using a smaller sample, 946 cases, Schlesinger found in 2014 that 8.35% of crime scenes to be staged. So it does happen. Almost 10%. So get that out the way, and we'll go back to the press conference. That'll come in handy later tonight.
As we move to the next phase of this investigation, I will continue to offer all resources that the ISP has to not only the investigative team I anticipate growing, but also to Prosecutor McClellan as we prepare for the coming months. Again, Nick has been very resolute and very clear, and I'm most grateful for his leadership. And it's going to be really important as we move forward. Please continue offering tips that you would like to share. The many avenues to report will remain open and will be available to all. Please continue doing that. In closing, I stand before you in this church and very place where we held our first briefing nearly 6 years ago, and just hours after the murders of Abby and Libby. Right here. Pulling in today, I wasn't really sure what emotion I would experience. But peace came over me. And I didn't expect that to happen. And I hope all of you, with all the different responsibilities you have from around the planet today, have felt some of that as well. But remember, we're not done. I think what we all have experienced proves that together there's nothing we cannot do. But more importantly, giving of ourselves, all of us, giving of ourselves matters more than what we could ever receive.
Hey, Marv, how are you?
Abby and Libby, though in death, have had.
How's it going, Marv? Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. Hope everything's good. I'm all right. It just it's just raining. Raining sucks.
Had a profound effect on so many of us, on how we live, and as importantly, who we all should be. I would now like to introduce to you my friend and the Carroll County Sheriff, Tom Lidsby, for his remarks.
I'm going to skip this because this whole Tobe Lesenby thing was just, I don't know. I don't know why they even had him go up there and say anything. But I want to get to Nick McClellan here, so let's go here. So I'm just going to skip past the Tobe part because it's just, I don't know why he even spoke.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Nicholas McClellan. I'm the Carroll County Prosecutor. And before we get started, I want to reiterate some of the things that Sheriff Lesenby and Superintendent Carter stated. I first want to thank both of them. They've been a great support to my office throughout this investigation. They've always been there for a phone call and always been willing to help a hand or a line of assistance to me and my office during this investigation. I want to thank the team behind me. This is the Homicide Task Force team that we've put together. Thank them and thank their families for being so understanding for the many nights they've worked away from their families, away from their children. There are many dates in a lifetime that you're going to remember. Dates your children are born.
I mean, I don't know why 12 Pleasant went up there. I just don't. I don't know.
The date you're married, the date you buy a first house, the date Abby and Libby went missing. One of those dates was last Friday, October 28, 2022. At that time, we had gathered evidence to formulate a PC that we submitted to the court, and the judge did find probable cause for an arrest of Richard Allen. He's been charged with 2 counts of murder for the murder of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. This investigation is still very ongoing. We're keeping the tip line open, the tip email open. We encourage everybody to continue to call in tips, not only about Richard Allen, but about any other person that you may have. For that reason and for the nature of this case, the probable cause and the charging information has been sealed by the court. I've been very clear to everybody that per the court order, we cannot talk about the evidence that's in the probable cause or the evidence that's in the charging information. That will become evident to you at some point and it'll be released, but right now is not that day. Today's about Abby and Libby, focusing on them. Mr. Allen has had his initial hearing. He's entered a preliminary plea of not guilty. The matter's been set for a pretrial on January 13th at 9 a.m., 2023, and a trial date of March 20th, 2023 at 9 a.m.
Well, that never happened. The pretrial never happened. So there's that.
He is presumed innocent. We will have an opportunity and day in court when we can present the evidence that we have against him. But until that day, he is presumed innocent. I want to open it up to a few limited questions from the audience. But again, keep in mind, we are not going to talk about the evidence that we have in this case or about the charging information. We cannot. Those things have been sealed by the court. And so I want to open up a few questions.
Prosecutor, when did Richard Allen become a suspect? And do you think he acted alone?
Again, that's part of the investigation, so I'm not going to talk about those things. What I can say is that we have probable cause established by the court for his arrest, and he is in custody. He's being held currently without bond. I'm sorry? Again, that gets into the evidence we have of the investigation, and I know from everybody it's frustrating. I know everybody, not only reporters, but the family, everybody wants to know more information. I understand it's frustrating, but my goal is to maintain the integrity of this case.
Superintendent
Carter, you had said that you believe that you had spoken to the suspect or the suspect's family 2 years ago. Is this man one of those people?
Again, we're going to, I appreciate the question, but we're getting into the timeline of events, and today's not the time to do that.
Can you talk about how rare it is?
Family, and we've had 5 conversations with them. We were almost in tears pretty much when we started off this press conference. Can't imagine how emotional it is for everybody that's worked on this case. What was your conversation first like with the family, Matt? And when you were able to tell them you finally got the suspect?
It was a very personal moment for me, and I think it was a very personal moment for them, for all of us that have had interaction with the family. We developed a relationship that I think is going to last at least one lifetime, and maybe a second. So it was a very, very, very sad yet a very humbling.
So it's just my opinion at this point. They have no clue to who they just arrested, and that's what I'm trying to get to in this PCA is, I think this arresting Richard Allen came as a shock to these guys too. So I think that's one of the reasons why they concealed the PCA for so long, so they could dig some more information out on this guy. And I think they're still trying to dig some information out.
Long experience.
Superintendent, you asked for tips.
No.
You
Hello, Miracle Hearts.
This all come together to make this next.
Hi, Miracle Hearts. How are you? I'm just going over this press conference last year because I figured it's almost a year to the day. And I'll be getting to a little bit more relevance shortly here.
Is that the combination of all 3 things that led us to this day, or is it one or the other?
Well, eventually you'll be able to see what led us to this day. But again, today's not that day. to include the reward. You mentioned that, Raphael, about the reward itself. And again,
The reward is important too. I think it's probably going to go to this lady right here, but that's just my opinion.
very premature for us to talk about that. There's still a tremendous amount of work to do.
You're going to say that Abby and Libby have taught you in depth that we can remain to continue on with it.
This is probably one of the best iced coffees I've had in a long time. I just wanted to tell people that. I should have gotten 3 of these. All right, never mind me. Thank you, Miracle Hearts. Thank you for everybody coming in. Appreciate it.
I think probably resilience and understanding the value of each and every day. That today was the day, but I didn't anticipate they ever thought today would be their day. And I feel like I've known for a long time.
Nothing like a good riddle from Doug Carter, right? Like everything. It's just, I don't know how he does it. It just turns everything into a riddle.
Excuse me?
Do you assume there's any other individuals involved in this case?
We haven't closed the door on the investigation. And so that's why we keep the tip line and the tip email open. And so we're not presuming anything at this point, but we're going to continue to take tips, continue to take any information anybody has. And as we've done with all the information we've gathered, we're going to look at that and examine that and see where it leads us.
You've asked the court based on this investigation, but these documents should remain out of the public view. Can you explain, without getting into the details of what's in the documents, but this is not regular. Usually a public hearing is held. We should be able to see all the documents, right?
Sure.
You made a decision. You explain your decision as to why you believe that over the next 30 days, no one in this room should have access to those records.
Sure. It is unusual. We don't do it very often in all the cases that we handle here in Carroll County. We did it in this case because the investigation is still open. And while all cases are important, the nature of this case has some extra scrutiny with it. And so my office, felt it was important to seal those records. There will be a public hearing on whether or not those records are going to remain sealed or not. There'll be public notice for that hearing so that everyone can attend, but there will be a hearing to determine whether or not they're going to stay sealed. But for now, to me, it's about protecting the integrity of this case. I want to have an opportunity at some point to have an opportunity in court to explain the evidence and for that not to be tarnished or tainted or anything like that. Again, he's presumed innocent. And so it was important for me in this case to do that. Hold on just a minute. We're not going to comment on that right now as part of the investigation. Again, we just encourage everybody to continue to call in tips if they have them about anybody, and we'll examine those tips.
How does it feel for you guys to have searched nationwide for nearly 6 years, going all over the place, only to find your guy, down the street from your office?
That's a hard question to answer. It's a mixed emotions. I've been watching the news all weekend like everybody else has, and I think a lot of the members of the public said it right. It's bittersweet. It's a step in the right direction. It's concerning that he's a local guy. So I think just a different.
It's absolutely bullshit. They knew it was a local guy to begin with. They just did.
Emotions. Again, this is a step in the right direction. This is the first step into getting into court and having a trial. And so.
And that's it. So that's the end of that. We waited. People waited 5.5 years for this press conference, and again, nobody said anything to end. I mean, it's just the same shit all the time. So, what did I want to do now? Okay, so we're gonna go back to this. I think it's this one here. All right, so I want to play this because this is going to be the next point here. Basically, in the press conference here, they were just saying the case is still open. They're not sure of anything, and that was the end of that. There was a question and answering after this, though. with some of the reporters, but I'll save that for a different time. But I'm going to go to this here.
The worst news possible.
I think this is the one with the murder sheet on here, but let's look.
Bodies of these two girls were found, both victims of murder. As the investigation progressed over 5 years, there were sketches of the suspect that looked like two different people, and there was video of the killer. Then, finally, an arrest of the accused murderer, Richard Allen. Now, Allen says he didn't do it, and he also alleges it was a group of Odinites who were actually responsible, white nationalists practicing an ancient Nordic religion. Today, a major development in the case as court TV cameras rolled inside the court.
Okay, so here, basically what I'm going to get to here is this right here. This is the question that I have for the week. Here is the sketches, right? We have, hold on a second here. So we have this sketch here, which is preferably known as the older guy sketch, right? This was the first sketch that was released. This older guy with the French beret here. And I believe that they got this sketch here from this image here, the still image of BG on the bridge, right? They took some of these facial features out of here, and I think they had a witness who kind of described this guy kind of looking like this here. This sketch here, the younger guy sketch, was actually the first sketch, and I believe from witness 4, Betsy Blair. And that's exactly what we're gonna get to tonight, because this is a huge problem, and you can explain anything away if you really had, a goal in mind. But in my opinion, this guy here looks nothing like the older guy sketch. It's not even close in proximity. This guy has hair, right? He's much younger. And this guy here, I mean, even though you really can't tell what the guy on the bridge looks like, he looks nothing like this first sketch, the younger guy sketch, just nothing like it. So let's go back to and if I was the defense, I would be seriously pushing that.
Courtroom, Richard Allen was there, but without his attorney.
I mean, my opinion has always been the same, and this all the way back to the first year. I think this is a lone wolf killing. I don't think anybody else is involved, and this guy fits the bill, in my opinion. I think that Richard Allen is 80% guilty, but my opinion means absolutely nothing. It's going to come down to 12 jurors, and they're going to have to really provide, the prosecution anyways, a good case against this guy, because, again, you're going to have to convince 12 jurors that this is the guy that did this, and I just not sure.
Attorneys. Tonight, we are live from the courthouse with this major shakeup in the case as we continue our investigation of the Delphi murders.
I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Let's start here. Abby and Libby, they were two great kids. Two great kids who were doing what kids do, right? You're good friends. You've got a day off from...
Again, this case is all about these two kids, Abby and Libby, period. End of story. Everybody wants justice for these two kids. It's been a long case, and it's going to get even longer now.
School, it's a little warmer than it's supposed to be. Hey, let's go for a hike.
Let's go for a hike. Isn't that what we want our kids to do these days? Put your phones down, go outside, get some fresh air, for goodness sake. And that's what they did. And you should be able to do that. Children should be able to go outside and go for a walk. And you shouldn't have to worry about it. But now we all do. They're in Delphi, Indiana. I mean, this is a very small town. This is a safe small town. Why would this happen there? Why would you even think for a second, that there'd be trouble there? You know, it's a nice day. There's probably, some people out. We know that there were other witnesses who were there, so they weren't the only ones there. Obviously, the killer was there as well, but there were other people who were out and about that day. And this crime scene.
I mean, it's a really, really nice day, not just for the weather side of it, but for visual, right? Like you would think that if it was a rainy day or a gloomy day or something like that, then vision wouldn't be possible, right? Like you would be able to see things pretty clearly. Yeah, I agree. That's what I said the other day, Miracle Hearts. I just don't know how you're going to find a jury of 12 people in Indiana that know nothing about this case at this point. And that's going to hurt the prosecution and the defense. I mean, either one, right? I mean, that whole angle of it is just bizarre. I don't know how anybody's going to get a fair jury now.
So very disturbing. What happened to these girls and what they went through, and then what the final scene looked like. Now, that crime scene will be significant in this case, we think, based upon what we've seen alleged by Richard Allen through his attorneys, that this was, from their perspective, some ritualistic killing, and obviously for prosecutors, it's a double murder. It's not a ritual. It has nothing to do with.
I said the same thing. In the Alex Murdaugh case. In these big, huge national media cases, there's absolutely no reason for them not to sequester a jury. I mean, you got to spend the money and do this stuff, because I just think it's impossible to find a jury when there's this much national attention on these cases. Same thing in Idaho. But I get it. Not every community has the money to sequester a jury forever. But if you want to get to the bottom of it, that's how you got to do it.
With a cult or religion or anything like that. But what the scene looked like and how these two children appeared where they were murdered is some of the most important evidence in this case. There's photos of that crime scene.
I mean, this case here, the Delphi case, this is arguably one of the most talked about crimes ever in the history of social media. I mean, you'd have to go outside maybe to JonBenet or OJ but I mean, in this day and age, the Delphi case for 5.5 years, 6 years now, it's probably the most talked about case ever. And I don't know how people can't expect people to know at least a little bit about this. I mean, not saying they can't find a jury. I'm just saying it's going to be really difficult.
As there are any crime scene, right? The investigators get there, they look for the evidence, they mark spots, they photograph everything. Sometimes they'll video record everything as well to preserve it for when and if they find out who's responsible and have to try the case inside of a courtroom.
I agree. I think, it's going to be even worse now because, this hurts everybody. the defense withdrawing from this case, and I'll try to explain that in a little while. But you're talking about at least another year, and we all know from Delphi that nothing goes right. Nothing. I mean, every time there's some sort of a hearing coming up or some sort of you just know it's going to be bad. It's just going to go bad. They haven't even had a pretrial yet. My God, it's just this case. I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked. I've been following this case for 5.5 years. I'm not shocked. Every time there's any type of movement in this case, it's gonna there's going to be a major problem. All the way back to the last hearing. I mean, all of a sudden you hear about these confessions. It's just been a clusterfuck, literally.
And you try to figure things out. You're examining the evidence, you're collecting the evidence while you're there, but you're also memorializing what the scene was like when investigators first arrived. So it's important evidence, but like I said, it's a very disturbing crime scene. So in this case, there's a gag order, no one's talking, but also evidence. And a lot of the...
and this is what I want to get to here, right? Like, now this is just my opinion. As bad as as bad as this whole investigation has been, I still believe that law enforcement has something hidden from the public. I mean, that's the one thing about law enforcement in this case here is they've been very secretive. I think everybody can agree on that. Like, they've been very close-vested, right, with any evidence whatsoever. I mean, but I still think that there's something that the law enforcement side has that only a handful of people know about, close to the investigation, that is very, very important, very key. And it's something that only the killer knows, the girls knew, and the handful of investigators that have been investigating this case from the beginning have. And that could have been one of the reasons why the defense decided, you know what, this is not worth it. And that's just my belief. I think they have something. I don't think it's DNA. I don't think it's another witness, but I think they have something up their sleeve that can tie all of this together. And the defense might have gotten that within the last few weeks. And they said, you know what, we're out.
Motions and papers that have been filed are all under seal for various reasons. One, the judge is attempting to preserve anyone being exposed to the evidence beforehand, because they're all prospective jurors, and we see that in a lot of cases in different jurisdictions. Some jurisdictions you see and hear everything before the trial, but also to protect these girls and their families. So the crime scene.
I mean, they have a mountain of evidence, right? They have a mountain of discovery, a mountain of evidence that's kind of circumstantial, to say the least. But I just think that they wouldn't have gone this far into this case and not been hiding something from the public and social media and all of this stuff. That's just my opinion, but I think they have something that ties everything together with this case. And could be nothing. I don't know. Maybe it's the bullet. I don't know. But I don't think that's all they have. I think there's something that they have that ties the murder scene, the bridge, and all of it together.
Pictures were sealed. Obviously, the attorneys have access to it, but that was it. the attorneys and their
Because as of last month, the defense has been saying, where's all the evidence? We don't have all the discovery yet. And the judge actually, I think, put a timeline on when the discovery, this was a couple of weeks ago, to when they had to send, the prosecution had to send all the discovery over to the defense. And it could be that they did. And the defense said, you know what? This case is, we're not going to win it.
experts. Those pictures were leaked. And we've covered that on this show.
This is just unacceptable. The leaked images are just unacceptable, in my opinion. You can leak certain things, but images of the crime scene, I mean, that's just, whoever did that should be arrested immediately and tried for something. I mean, it's just unexcusable. It's just, I know if this were my kids, I would be absolutely livid, boiling. It's just not acceptable, period.
We spoke to some podcasters from Murder Sheet who will be back on tonight, who unsolicited received copies of these pictures. They deleted them. But that was a violation of the court's order and something that I think really struck a nerve with folks.
You know, people say, well, the prosecution leaks things too. Yeah, but not like this. This is, you don't leak the crime scene photos. I mean, that's, and I'm not saying the defense did it on purpose. I'm just saying whoever did it, however it was leaked, those people should be brought up on charges. I mean, it's
folks in this small town.
These are freaking kids, for God's sakes. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I just, when I heard that, you know, that's just unacceptable. You just don't do that. You can't.
In Indiana, and the judge and everyone else associated with this story. It struck a nerve. So there was a hearing that was called today, and for the first time in my history at Court TV, our cameras inside a courtroom in Indiana. Let's take a look.
I mean, she doesn't look pissed, right? Maybe it's because they already withdrew, but she doesn't look pissed. She just looks like, hey, this unexpected, but what am I supposed to do? You know, this courthouse is absolutely gorgeous. Look at this courthouse.
We are on the record in state of Indiana versus Richard Allen, 08-C01-2210-MR1. Thank you for your patience, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. McClellan, Mr. Luttrell, for your patience. We've had an unexpected turn of events, ladies and gentlemen. Earlier this afternoon.
I agree, but I just don't think that that's why they left. I don't buy it. I don't buy the fact that they were going to get reprimanded. And even if they do get disbarred from the case, I didn't even think public defenders could withdraw from a case, but apparently they can. I think there's something else behind why they left. It's just my opinion.
The defense attorneys have withdrawn their representation.
Especially both of them, because as far as I know, it was Baldwin's side that was the one that kind of got it leaked, like it was from his side. So I don't know why Rossi would have, and maybe he just didn't want to go on without Baldwin. I don't know, but I don't know why Rossi would have left too.
Representation of Mr. Allen.
And I also don't think that Richard Allen is being the best defendant. I don't think he's really cooperating with them much at all. So that could be another reason.
Mr. Baldwin made an oral motion to withdraw. I granted that oral motion to withdraw, and Mr. Rosie will be submitting a written motion to withdraw, I'm assuming within the next couple of days. They have confirmed with the court that Mr. Allen's financial situation remains static.
I just noticed that's Murder Sheet right there. That's Anya. That's Kevin. I just saw that.
Meaning he is continuing to be entitled to appointed counsel. I will reach out to public defenders to make that appointment.
Everybody in the,
As
everybody in the audience looks like shocked. I think, what was it, 7 hours? They had to stay there for 7 hours and nothing. They got nothing. It's classic.
Mr. Allen is now without counsel, I've ordered him transported back to the Department of Correction. Mr. McClellan, I know that we have already scheduled a hearing in the Carroll Circuit Court October 31st at 9 a.m. I'd like to maintain that hearing if we can, please.
Everybody in this courtroom looks, what the fuck is going on?
I think at that point, we can have counsel appointed. I'd like to set a new trial date. Obviously, I don't believe counsel will be prepared within the next couple of months to try a case of this magnitude in January. So we'll set dates for the trial. I think we need to set a.
I think that I'm more on the side now of a plea going on in the next few months than a trial. Before this happened, I thought, it was more like 60-40 with a plea, but I would not be surprised now, 50-50, whether or not this thing actually goes to trial. That's just my opinion, but I'm more on the side now thinking that there might be some sort of a change of plea here.
The date as well for the suppression hearing that was filed now by former counsel. I have asked the attorneys to provide all of the discovery previously provided back to the state of Indiana. I know I entered a protective order on the discovery, and honestly, I don't remember when that was. I think it was in April of this year, perhaps, maybe sooner. But the attorneys have been ordered to provide all of that discovery back to the.
I just think about it. The suppression hearing was supposed to happen, right? The two suppression hearings. One was supposed to happen back in, I think it was May, either May or June. It was right after or right before the Keegan Klein shit. There was supposed to be a preliminary hearing, right? There was also supposed to be a bail hearing. Nothing has happened in this case yet. Zero. Nothing. So this case could go literally for 5 years because nothing's been done yet.
State, and if you would maintain that until such time as it can be turned over to successor counsel, I would appreciate that, Mr. McClellan.
Yeah, like I said before this whole debacle happened last week, I was kind of thinking there's no way there's going to be a plea because it seemed like the lawyers that he had were fighting pretty good for him. But now that they're gone, I don't know. I don't know who they're going to get to, because usually public defenders are like, sure, this is what we're gonna do for you. But we're gonna try to reduce your sentence. That's usually what public defenders do. I mean, they don't fight as hard like Baldwin and Rossi were fighting, especially if there's that much discovery. But we'll see.
I've also asked the defense attorneys to cooperate with successor counsel. They're not required to do that, but I think that they will in the best interest of.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they had the best. They had the best. They had the best way of trying to change public opinion. But I think this guy, I think this guy's guilty and he knows it. It's probably going to come down to if you take the death penalty off or if you whatever. I think most public defenders will try to do that.
Mr. Allen, they're not required to provide any of their work product. But they will be required and have indicated that they will cooperate with successor counsel. So obviously, without counsel, Mr. Allen's hearing cannot proceed. I apologize that I know many of you have been waiting for several hours. I know, Mr. McClellan, you and your staff and
Try 6 years. People have been waiting 6 fucking years for this, right? People just want answers at this point.
You had some witnesses here that came earlier to have the hearing, but clearly this is outside of our control. So is there anything, Mr. McClellan, that you'd like to state for the record?
No, Your Honor, I think we can address the other issues at the October 31st court date.
All right. With that being said, then, we are in recess. Thank you. I'll see you in October.
Here's a quick spoiler alert. I don't think that's going to happen either. I don't think that October 31st, that's 10 days from now. That's not happening.
Wow. Wow. This trial was scheduled
Vinny, just classic.
for January. It was ramping up. We were getting ready to go. And the families who've been waiting so long for justice were getting ready to go. And I'm sure.
I mean, don't you just feel bad for the family? I mean, good Lord. This is just, hey, CJK, how are you? Nice to see you again. I saw you over there in the mob crew. Good to see you.
Richard Allen, who believes and says he's innocent, was getting ready to go. It's not going to, I don't think it's going to
Does anybody ever say they're guilty? I mean, honestly.
happen. Let's go straight out to Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson joining us live from the courthouse, the beautiful courthouse, beautiful courtroom in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Matt, great to see you tonight. Let me ask you the question that's on everyone's mind tonight. This withdrawal of the defense team, did it have anything to do, with the leaked crime scene photos?
Hey, Vinny, always great to see you. And you know what? That is what's on everybody's mind. Here at the Allen County Courthouse behind me, they didn't say as much today. The judge didn't. Everybody else is under gag order, right? But you can.
Yeah, I mean, depending on what day you go to their, like, jails or prisons, you'll have 50% of the inmates say they're innocent. But then if you go the next day, they'll say they're guilty. I mean, these confession pleas, they happen all the time. Trust me. People always just, people call into tip lines and say they're guilty of committing crimes, and they're just loonies. You know, they have nothing better to do with their time, or they're just technically mentally unstable, and they insert themselves into these crimes all the time. So it's not, now, I'm not saying the confessions aren't real. I'm just saying people do stuff like this all the time. And when you go from being a free person to a solitary confinement in a matter of a couple of minutes here for the 5-10 days, most people will literally go crazy.
Kind of connect the dots here, because this comes on the heels of those leaked crime scene photos, and then this unplanned hearing was scheduled. All parties required to be here within days. And then this happened today. But before the defense for Richard Allen recused himself or withdrew, defense attorney Andrew Baldwin hired an attorney himself who filed a motion talking about possible disqualification.
You know, it's just like the goldfish in this house, right? Like, I'm a sucker for, like, the cheese flavored goldfish that come in the bag, you know, and I've literally been stealing them from the kids for years. And, you know, when pressed, I'll say, yeah, I did it. I ate them, you know, but initially I say, nah, it wasn't me, you know. Yeah, me too. I definitely think they did that for a reason. There's no doubt. You know, let's face it, it all comes down to money, you know, realistically. And I'm pretty sure the county doesn't want to spend a lot of money. They just would rather get this over with quickly. So if they can send them to a prison and, I don't know, work on them to confess, you know, there you go.
Or sanctions, talking about what happened in his office, right?
In my opinion, they did the same thing to Ron Logan, and he just wouldn't confess.
Write this, quote, Attorney Baldwin did nothing wrong. He was snookered and abused. This issue before the court is a horrible tragedy created by persons not related to the defense of Mr. Allen. there were 3 disseminators, one of which committed suicide after a law enforcement investigation began. Goes on to say this: Mr. Baldwin trusted a friend to respect his office space. He was betrayed. Since that transgression, Mr. Baldwin has kept all Delphi-related items locked in a room or a locked fireproof file cabinet. Now, this motion was filed, you would think, to argue that he wanted to stay on the case, that he remedied the problem. This all taking place, we think, earlier today, which could have been the reason why this hearing was delayed in the first place, because that was set to happen at 2 o'clock. We had the prosecutors there. We had potential witnesses. We had family.
Pick up on things at the other side.
All right, I just fast forwarded through that because I want to get to this. Extra cheese, yeah, absolutely. Because those are, and I'm guilty. I'm literally guilty of eating those. But if somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, did you take the goldfish?" I'm probably going to say no. But
Didn't pick up on, or they may disagree with some legal arguments that have been made, but we'll see how it all plays out. Wow. Big news tonight. Matt Johnson there delivering it all. We'll check back in with you in a little bit. Let's bring in our guests. Joining us tonight in Indianapolis, Indiana, hosts of the Murder Sheet podcast, Anya Kane and Kevin Greenlee. Also with.
So this is basically the part I wanted to get to in this whole interview thing here. I apologize if people don't like certain people on here, but this is important here.
With us in Los Angeles, California, senior reporter for DailyMail.com, host of Daily Mail Crime on TikTok, and victim advocate for Project Cold Case, Caitlin Becker. And finally, in Chicago, Illinois, criminal defense attorney, host of the Defense Diaries, who was also in court today, Bob Mata, as was Anya and Kevin as well.
I mean, at least if I take the goldfish, I will replace them. I'll go, down to the store and get more for them. But and Doritos never last in this house. Like, you could have 10 bags of Doritos that just gone in 5 minutes.
All right, Kevin and Anya, I'll begin with you. We had you on the show. You tracked how all this happened. You said it looks like it came from the defense. It seems like the defense conceded that in the papers that they filed. You also said, Kevin, I remember very specifically, they could get disqualified for this. And I was like, I was shocked, but you were right. Your thoughts and Anya's thoughts about what happened today.
Well, I think ultimately I wasn't surprised that at the end of the day, these attorneys were off this case, considering the gravity of what occurred. But what did surprise me, even shock me, was that they chose to go on their own. Earlier that morning, Andy Baldwin, one of the attorneys in this case, actually hired a criminal defense attorney to represent himself and to fight to stay on this case. So it's unclear to me what made him change his mind and just walk away.
Caitlin Becker, this case has taken so long to get to where we are.
See, that's a good point. I'm going to play that again because he does raise a good point here.
Their own. Earlier that morning,
I remember very specifically, they could get disqualified for this. And I was like, I was shocked, but you were right. Your thoughts and Anya's thoughts about what happened today.
Well, I think ultimately I wasn't surprised that at the end of the day, these attorneys were off this case, considering the gravity of what occurred. But what did surprise me, even shock me, was that they chose to go on their own. Earlier that morning, Andy Baldwin, one of the attorneys in this case, actually hired a criminal defense attorney to represent himself and to fight to stay on this case.
See, that is a good, why would he do that? Like, if he's just going to go in there and withdraw from the case, why hire an attorney to represent him? That just doesn't. Something happened between, I would say, about 8 o'clock or maybe even the day before to when they stepped into court that caused them to say, okay, we're just getting out of this case. Both of them.
So it's unclear to me what made him change his mind and just walk away.
Caitlin Becker, this case has taken so long to get to where we are now. And now for the families of the victims, they're going to have to wait longer. Richard Allen says he didn't do it. He's going to have to wait longer. This is really an unexpected twist and turn at this junction of this case that goes back to 2017. Your thoughts tonight?
You know, Vinny, I have to wonder what the ultimate purpose was for leaking the images. I just don't know what the goal was, because it doesn't seem that it has helped anybody, any party at all, particularly not the defense. And if these images were leaked from the defense team, as you said, they said in court, and as of course you guys said, because you two got the images originally, to what end? I mean, if you're working for the defense, this seems to sort of hamstring them from properly defending their client. And now we have this major setback. You know, Vinny, I have to wonder what the ultimate purpose was for leaking the images. I just don't know what the goal was, because it
I had to rewind that because I want to play something here.
doesn't seem that it has helped anybody, any party at all, particularly not the defense. And if these images were leaked from the defense team, as
See this guy here? All right. Now, this guy right here, I would say, is probably about 5'10". This guy to the left is probably a little taller, maybe 6 feet, 6'1". I know that Richard Allen here is wearing like loafers here, but I'm just trying to get a comparison of how short this guy actually really is. Here's Tobe, right? Look at how short this guy is, right? I mean, if I saw somebody walking on a trail that was this short, I would remember that. That would be one of the things that really stood out to me, because not every guy in the world is this short. So that would be, I don't know, like a sticking point in my mind, especially when you realize that 2 innocent people were killed that day on a trail, and this is the guy you saw. I mean, my first words out of my mouth would be he was actually really short.
you said, they said in court, and as of course you guys said, because you two got the images originally, to what end? I mean, if you're working for the defense, this seems to sort of hamstring them from properly defending their client. And now we have this.
Could be. I mean, these guys have private practices. They were basically picked out of a number of numerous attorneys they could have picked to defend this guy. So it could be just that, you know what, we're out of here. We're just not going to do this. That's definitely option. That's definitely possible for sure.
Major setback. I'm just so curious as to where they thought this was going to go and why they thought to do it. I mean, people leak stuff to us all of the time. They leak images that they shouldn't leak. They leak documents that they shouldn't leak. But there's usually a purpose to it. It's to get out information that wasn't previously out there. It is to sort of hold feet to the fire that, aren't being held to the fire in a place of authority. But I just don't see the reason that this was done.
I just want to go back to Anya on that. Anya, any indication from your investigation as to why the person who grabbed those images and disseminated them, why they did it? Were they selling them? Was there some, do we know?
Yeah, it's such a good question. And it's unfortunate because in this situation, we don't really have an answer about an ultimate motive. We can say in the communications that we saw between people who are not the original leaker, but who kind of got it down the line is.
I mean, this whole leaking of these images could have really got out of hand. That's the danger to that, right? People are people. And have a good night, Marv. Thank you so much for coming in. Appreciate it. I'll see you on your next live, especially if you're doing it in the afternoon, because that's when I'll be up. Thank you, Marv. I think that what was I just saying? Anyways, let's go.
There seems to be some sort of sense that, it's kind of a combination of morbid curiosity, but also we need to put out this because,
Oh yeah, these images could have really been a problem. they could have been, put out on the dark web. They could have been put out in mass production. I mean, it could have gotten really bad.
It could prove the defense's theory is more credible with the Odinism and, here's how the crime scene looked. So I don't think that this was coming from the defense attorneys. We've seen no evidence of that whatsoever. But I think it was a situation where you had people just put stuff out there that they shouldn't have, and then it just spirals out of control because as we all know, one person leaks to one person, and then that person leaks to two, and unfortunately, we've seen that where this is just kind of spread like a wildfire across the internet, and we're just dreading that these images, some of the graphic images, might come out and be published, and we're.
I mean, I don't think there's a lot of YouTuber, especially creators out there, that would have paid for these, especially if they were, say over a certain amount, but you never know. You know what I mean? Like it's most people that I know, most creators that I know, are going to be pretty responsible with these photos and images, but you never know.
We're just really praying that that's not happen.
Bob Mata, let me ask you about. Let's start with Richard Allen, right? Every defendant has the right to their counsel of choice. Now, this is appointed counsel in this case, but my guess is with them filing all this stuff being very.
Yeah, I heard that too. I heard that they were leaked long before all of this stuff came out, but I don't know. At this point, I don't believe anything. It's tough too.
Very aggressive, very committed to the case, that maybe they are the attorneys that he wanted, but they want it out, but they don't get out unless the judge lets them out. How does all this affect the defendant and the defendant's rights?
It's huge, and actually, Kevin and Anya, we were talking about that before when we were kind of pontificating what we thought might happen in there, and.
This guy's pretty good. I watch him all the time on the Defense Diaries. I think that's the name of his site. But he's pretty educated. His wife is really smart. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with like I said, most of the creators that I know that I watch anyways. I mean, I don't watch a lot of the loony guys, but they know how important those photos are, and they're really tied to this case in some way, shape, or form with feeling. So I don't think they're going to be, broadcasting them all over the place.
What stunned me, not so much that Baldwin ended up withdrawing, because I think he was under a lot of heat. When we walked into that courtroom at about 1 o'clock and it was empty, and then.
Plus, I think it's a pretty hefty criminal act if you have these and then you start distributing them. So there's that too.
And I don't know if it was.
There's a gag order, so that's that's a pretty hefty crime right there.
It was about 150, and about 8 law enforcement officers from Doug Carter to Tony Liggett walked in there, and they all sat in the jury box. At that point, you knew one of two things was going on. Either the judge was going to try to have some kind of hearing to make a preliminary finding for a Franks hearing, or that she was going to proceed in terms of a removal hearing. So they were back in chambers for 2 hours. And
these are all the witnesses here. These are all the law enforcement. There's Doug Carter. I think that's the Delphi guy. That was the Delphi cop there. And there's Richard Allen's wife, I think, and the mother.
All saw Baldwin come in, and he was back there. Rosie was back there. McClellan was back there, and they really had this out back in chambers for hours. We waited for an extra half an hour before it was supposed to start. In the meantime, I'm sitting directly behind Richard Allen's wife. And
look at this courthouse. Look at this courtroom. I don't think I've ever seen a courtroom this awesome.
He was back.
Look at these walls. Is that marble? Holy crap. Look at these desks. This is sweet. Look at these chairs.
There, Rosie was back there, McClellan was back there, and they really had this out back in chambers for hours. We waited for an extra half an hour before it was supposed to start. In the meantime, I'm sitting directly behind Richard Allen's wife and mother, who are weeping. So they knew something was going on.
Right. I mean, if I would have got them, I'd have just sent them right back. I don't need that. I don't need that on my head. I don't. I have no business seeing those photos. I just don't. I mean, it's not because of a stomach thing. It's just that's for the court. That's for the jury. That's for that. I have no business wanting to see any of that stuff. Really? Are you in Indiana? I mean, that's a beautiful courthouse. I mean, we have some good ones here too in New England, but that takes the cake.
And then people kept coming to talk to them, and like Kathy was just crying the entire time. That's Richard Allen's wife. From the minute she got into that courtroom, and from the minute that Rosie pulled her out 5 minutes before the judge came in. As far as Richard's Sixth Amendment right, it's devastating.
I think that's Barbara McDonald behind here. These are all reporters in here. There's him.
Because these guys were appointed, but they're private counsel, and you could tell by the depth of which, agree with it or not, but those memos that they put out, there was a ton of work that was put into those. That is not your typical public defender type filing just because of lack of time, because they have a huge amount of cases to work on. These guys were fighting to the death for this guy. So I have every feeling that Richard Allen is sitting there devastated, as well as his family.
All right.
I don't buy that. I think the family, the people who are related to him, like the wife and the mother, are devastated. But I think this guy here, Richard Allen, is a narcissist, and I don't think he really gives a shit. I just don't.
We'll continue to follow this part of the story, but when we come back, we're going to literally walk you through what happened to Abby and Libby. Plus, coming up next hour. In Delphi, Indiana, Abby and Libby German were brutally murdered in.
Financial situation remains static, meaning he is make that appointment.
The outcome in this case.
So we're at about the halfway point of the Monon High Bridge property. About this area right here, that's where that Snapchat photo was taken, where Libby takes a picture of her friend Abby. The two girls, they were heading down the bridge south over to
I had to fast forward because, the commercials and shit.
Private property, and that's where the abduction happened.
Okay, let's pick it up from there, and we'll show you and walk you through what happened that day, where Abby and Libby were. Well, first,
I do like that tie.
Let's show you where Abby and Libby were dropped off. It's February 13th, 2017, around 1:49, dropped off across from the Mears Farm, which is located on the north side of County Road 300. This is an important road. County Road 300 north, near the entrance of the trails. At 2:13, video from Libby's cell phone shows the girls encountered a man on the southeast portion of the Monon High Bridge, which you just saw that Matt showed you. The video shows the girls walking southeast on the bridge. Then the male orders the girls down the hill. Okay? February 14th, 2017, the girls' bodies are discovered. There is clothing found in Deer Creek, south of where the bodies were located. So there you have a look at.
So here's your drop off here. This is Deer Creek here, Monon High Bridge here, right here. So this goes over the creek, and this is where they're found.
Where this?
I have this exact, kind of like this exact thing here, and I believe this is Ron Logan's property here, or maybe here. I think this is, no, this is Ron Logan's property here, I think.
All is, and in part of what happens is they end up on one side of the creek, and then their bodies end up back on the original side of the creek where they were. Let's bring back in our guests tonight, Anya Kane, Kevin Greenlee, Caitlin Becker, Bob Mata. All right, Anya and Kevin, to me, looking at what happened here, they had to cross that creek, didn't they? Once they are abducted or under the control of the killer, they cross over the bridge, which takes you over the creek to one side. But
so let's go back here for a second. Okay. So I still think it's possible. Okay, here's the bridge, right? This is the bridge right here. So they're dropped off here. They walk through the trail. Here's the bridge here, right? And this is where they kind of get abducted here. I still think it's possible that they never went down here. I think it's still possible that he walked them back across the bridge and then they ran down this way. But that's just me. Okay, let's
creek to one side, but then their bodies are found back over on the other side of the creek.
Yes, Vinny, that is our understanding as well, that they would have had to, traverse this creek. We went there a number of years ago. We were too scared to actually go up on top of the bridge, but we went underneath.
Like if he, let me stop this here for a second, and I'll bring my thing up here. I don't know if anybody's going to be able to see this. Okay, so here's my thing here. There's Monon High Bridge, Rich and Allen. What do I got here? This is so here's the bridge here. So let's say he grabs him by grabs him here, right at the end of the bridge, and he's pulled the gun. In my opinion, it would be more reasonable for him to walk them back over the bridge, to not scare the crap out of them. And then when they get back across the bridge, then they run for it down here. That's just, an opinion that I've had for my opinion. Yeah, I mean, we know that there's 43 seconds of video, right? There's 43 seconds, so 60 he's 60 feet from them. So it's just, I've never been a big fan of them crossing the creek, and I've been trying to figure out how they would have not done that. But I have no reason to believe my angle, but it's always been a possibility to me that they might not have ever crossed the creek. And I don't think they were moved. I don't think, I have a hard time believing that they would have been taken in a car, brought somewhere else, and then brought back. That's just it. I kind of know woods like that because I grew up in the woods, and it's really hard to find some way to grab two kids like that and then bring them to a location like that out there and then dump them there. I just don't think that's possible. It is. I mean, anything's possible, but I just don't think that happened. Yeah, I mean, here's a perfect angle right here. So this is basically how they would have gone across the creek, and they ended up over here, right? So it would make to me more sense if he says, "Look, you're trespassing here. We're gonna make sure you get across the bridge and get to safety here." And that's when they kind of got a little bit scared about what was going on, and then they ran this way. I mean, it's possible. I mean, it would have made more sense. They probably wouldn't have been as suspicious if they're going back over the bridge with this guy, as opposed to just going down into, but who knows? See, I don't think that this witness is actually that important, but again, that's my opinion. I think that this witness here, if she does get into court and does take a stand, any normal defense will try to discredit this witness here. But that's just me. Now, I don't know what this person is talking about, the 1 and 2, but I just don't know what she's talking about. But I take great stock in my percentages, and percentage wise, if they were taken somewhere and then brought back, the likelihood of that happening is like maybe 5%, not a lot. I do think though that if all of a sudden you have new attorneys come in and then all of a sudden there's a plea deal, that to me that would be a little suspicious. Um, before we go further with this, I just want to say that it's known in the world of legal law and everything that eyewitness testimony is unreliable. That doesn't mean it's not true. It's just that eyewitness testimony is very unreliable. That's why a lot of a lot of people get screwed on the witness stands. So here we go with the sketches. And this is what I wanted to get to tonight. So I'll bring this up here really quickly. Hey, Charlotte, how are you? Am I early? Are you early? Somebody's early. All right, so let me go here. I want to oops. Give me a second here. I'm trying to okay, so I'm going to read this here because it'd take me too long to try to figure out how to switch this around. So I got the PCA right here. This is the latest one. This is the one that came out with all of the other stuff that came out over the summer here. But this is basically the PCA. So they're talking about the photographs included they're talking about the 3 witnesses that saw who appears to be RA first. And then they start talking about Betsy Blair. Okay, so investigators spoke with Betsy Blair, who advised she was on the trails on February 13th, 2017. So this witness right here, as far as I'm concerned, is probably the most important witness in this case. Because she actually is the one that saw somebody on the bridge, right? So video from the Hoosier Harbor store captured Betsy's vehicle traveling eastbound at 1:46 p.m. toward the entrance across from the Mears farm. Betsy advised that, so she's going to basically where the girls were dropped off. Betsy advised she saw 4 juvenile females walking on the bridge over Old State Road 25 as she was driving underneath on her way to the park. So she could have saw 4 people. Since RA is really short, maybe she just driving by didn't really get a good look and saw, all 4 of them, Rich and Allen and the 3 females. It's possible to think of that. She advised that Betsy advised there were no other cars parked across from the Mears farm when she parked. So there's nobody else parked there. This is coming from her. She advised she walked to the Monon High Bridge and observed a male matching the one from victim 2's video. So let me read that again. She observed a male matching the one from victim 2's video. So they must have showed her the video, which they didn't end up showing the public, the general public, until 2019. That's what I can guess from there. She described the male she saw as a white male wearing blue jeans and a blue jacket. She advised he was standing on the first platform of the Monon High Bridge, approximately 50 feet from her. And the rest is, so she was about 50 feet from the guy standing on the bridge, which is not that far, right? Okay. Hey, Hoosier, what's up, buddy? It's Karen Lee. Karen Lee's here. Hi, Karen Lee. Hey, Hoosier. So I just played that, but I'm going to play this here because I'll go over it again in a second here. Whoops. Let me share that.
The left, sketch 2 is on the right.
thank you everybody for coming in. I appreciate it. Hoosier's here. Hoosier's awesome. Karen Lee's awesome. Thank you all for being here. It's late.
That's how they refer to them. However,
So you look at this image, these two images here, right? This guy here, like I said earlier on the live tonight, this guy here looks a lot more like, in my opinion anyways, than this guy here looks a lot more like the guy in the image of the guy on the bridge. I don't know who this guy is. I just don't. But this guy here, in my opinion, looks nothing like this guy at all. And this guy here, the younger guy, in my opinion, looks nothing like Richard Allen. So let's go.
you should know this, that sketch 1 on the left was drawn after sketch 2 on the right. So sketch 2 on the right was actually drawn in February of 2017. The witness description of a man on the...
So I want to play that again because that's very important. Basically, I've been doing this live all night to get to this point right here.
Eyewitnesses who provided descriptions, which then turned into police sketches. Let's take a look at them.
Now, I agree with the fact that police sketches that police draw are not accurate. They're not anywhere near accurate most of the time. Like you can look through a lot of different criminal cases in history, and one that comes to mind is Ted Bundy. He looked nothing like Ted Bundy. So it's not like an accurate thing, but it's important what she says here.
There's two of them. Sketch 1 and sketch 2. Sketch 1 is on the left, sketch 2 is on the right. That's how they refer to them. However, you should know this, that sketch 1 on the left was drawn after sketch 2 on the right.
So this guy here was drawn after this guy. So the old guy sketch was drawn after the younger guy sketch. We knew that. We know that from the press conference in 2019.
So sketch 2 on the right was actually drawn in February of 2017. The witness description of a man on the Monon Hybrid.
So this is her description to the sketch artist. Man on the Monon High Bridge, white, age 20, brown curly hair, medium build. White, she got that part right. Age 20. 20 is fairly young. I mean, some people refer to this guy as like the Justin Timberlake. Brown curly hair. Brown curly hair, right?
Bridge, about 20 years old, brown curly hair, medium build, age 20, kind of boyish features. I mean, I've been saying this is the Justin Timberlake sketch, right? Now, let me tell you the story of sketch 1, which actually was drawn after sketch 2. The Unified Command, which has nothing to do with a cult. These are the name they gave to the investigative unit.
So what I want to know is who's this guy, right? And we're gonna hear from Murder Sheet here in a second. I completely disagree with them.
Did not release the witness sketch to the public for over 2 years. Instead,
which is not unusual. I disagree with them a lot, but in this one here, I completely disagree because this witness, Betsy Blair, doubled down on this sketch to the right here. And that's why they finally released it in 2019, because they had it all along. It was the first sketch.
They first released another witness sketch called Sketch 1. The other sketch was illustrated by the FBI sketch artist Plants from Detroit on June 19, 2017, and released to the public on July 17, 2017. Roughly 2 years later, in March 2019, the witness met with Tony Liggett, frustrated that her sketch number 2, had not been released.
See, this is exactly what I thought, what Miracle Hearts just said here. The old guy sketch has to be Betsy Blair's, right? That's not the case. And that's what I thought. This sketch here, the older guy sketch, from what I've heard, came from the still image from the bridge guy, or some of the video that they didn't release. They didn't release the video till 2019, but they had it. And a few of the witnesses' accounts. Yes, yeah, you're right, and that's what he's reading now. He's reading the fact that this witness here, Betsy Blair, doubles down on this. Let me play that again here.
The other sketch was illustrated by the FBI sketch artist Plants from Detroit on June 19, 2017, and released to the public on July 17, 2017. Roughly 2 years.
Okay, so the Unified Command did not release the sketch to the public for over 2 years. So that's the young guy sketch. So Unified Command did not release the younger guy sketch until 2019. They first released the older guy sketch 1, because it was released to the public first.
Years later.
I know it's confusing, but if you think about it, it's actually not.
In March 2019, the witness met with Tony Liggett, frustrated that her sketch.
See, there you go. So the witness, Betsy Blair, met with Tony Liggett, frustrated that her sketch 2, had not been released to the public. So that's this guy right here. And was frustrated because sketch 1, which had been released to the public almost 2 years before, did not match the man that she saw.
Number 2 had not been released to the public. The witness was frustrated because sketch 1, which had been released to the public almost 2 years before, did not match the man she observed on the high bridge. The witness even commented,
"This is a problem." That to me, I don't know, man. And I'm gonna keep playing this here, but that's a problem, because she doubles down on it. She comes back at him and she says, "Look, the guys the sketch that you released is not who I saw." So I just want to hold on a second. I'm going to go here. This is basically what I wanted to get to tonight. He does? Richard Allen? No, Richard Allen doesn't look like. You're right. Richard Allen doesn't. So I'm going to go back to this here. So this is. Let's do this one here. So from this image here, right? From this is the still image of Bridge Guy. This kind of looks like this, right? I mean, it's actually more. It looks like this guy here more than this guy, because I don't know where Betsy Blair would have seen curly hair here. I mean, this guy's a good 20 years younger than this guy. I can make that out, right? And this guy here on the right looks nothing like this guy. I mean, you can, I may not have the greatest eyesight, but I can guarantee you that this guy is not this guy. And I don't know how bad the sketch artist would have been to draw hair on this guy when this guy here that Betsy Blair saw had curly hair, brown curly hair. There's no, oops, there's no curly hair with that guy whatsoever. Younger, 20. This guy's not 20. That's just, I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. Now maybe Betsy Blair is, I mean, can she change that now? Can she say that, no, that's the guy I saw? That's alarming to me, man. That's just, I don't know, man. And just check out what murder sheet
that sketch
says
one
here.
was wrong. This is from the defense memo. All right, let's bring back in our guests, Anya Kane, Kevin Greenlee, Caitlin Becker, Bob Motter. This drives me crazy because I'm a former prosecutor. I don't like this. This is like they were trying to.
I agree with him. It's like, this is in the PCA, right? They put in there not what she saw. They omitted the curly hair shit because I got the PCA right here, and it just says she advised she walked to the Mona High Bridge and observed the male matching. I mean, I don't know where that came, matching victim 2's video. She described the male she saw as a white male wearing blue jeans and a blue jacket. Nothing about curly hair here. So I don't know I don't know. I just don't know.
Draw reasonable doubt. It doesn't make sense. Anya and Kevin, can you make any sense of this? Is it possible that someone else from that sketch 2, which was drawn first, was on the bridge but has nothing to do with the murders?
I find that coincidence.
According to the timeline, it can't be. I mean, you literally have to go through the timeline, because if Betsy Blair sees this guy on the bridge at around, say, 1:49, she parks at like 1:46. She gets out of her car, takes 5 minutes to get to the bridgehead. Who is she seeing? Like in the timeline, it has to be who she saw. I mean, I don't know how you can get around that unless the timing's fucked up. I don't know.
A bit hard to believe, although I guess if there's evidence pointing to that, then sure. I hate sketches. It's a artistic rendering of somebody's flawed memory. So we are with you on sketches in general. I think if you don't immediately arrest someone based on a sketch, then they're just floating out there for years. In this case, we have 2 of them, and it creates confusion amongst the public. Everyone's trying to compare things to, in what is, in my view, a very flawed investigative tool. So I don't know. I just think it's a mess. And I think having 2 of them is a problem, but I think ultimately you're probably going to hear more about the sketches from the defense than the prosecution, which is going to lean on the evidence that they do have.
Yeah, Caitlin Becker, when we lined them all up there, right there.
See, I just disagree with that. I agree with the whole sketch thing that, that like if you're talking to a sketch artist and the sketch artist is a little off with the eyes, the nose, the mouth, all of that, I get that. But to completely be off about the brown curly hair, I don't know who the fuck that is, because it's not Richard Allen. Unless Richard Allen at the time had brown curly hair, but I don't know. I just don't see that. And that's Woofy. Yeah, I don't, I want to believe, but when you hear stuff like this here, I just have to question it, because I don't know who the fuck this is. I don't know who this guy is. And I've been saying it since 2019 when they came out with this guy. And to find out that this was actually the first sketch, right? And this was the witness that saw him on the bridge. I just think somebody's not making any sense. Something's not right. I mean, I still think Richard Allen's guilty, but I don't know. It's like they're going to have to tell a jury this. And like I said, my opinion doesn't really fucking matter. My opinion, sorry for the French words, but they're going to have to convince a jury when this witness says, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. So we'll play the rest of this here, and I'm going to get to.
Okay. I could see the sketch all the way to the left.
Try to get to the Richard Huerman shit, and then I'm going to get out of here.
Left, sketch number 1 looks kind of like Richard Allen. I could see that. And
I mean, I don't think anybody can make a face out of this guy on the bridge. I think that's pretty obvious. I mean, This case was going for 5.5 years. You had some of the greatest people in the world looking to see if they can get, blowing up this image, trying to get a facial recognition from this guy. But I guarantee you one thing, this guy here looks nothing like this guy. It's my opinion.
And I can sort of see it.
And he's wearing a hat. He's wearing some sort of head covering. You can tell. This is not a head covering. This is hair.
With the videos.
Now, maybe he has his hat off while he was standing at the bridge. I don't know. But Richard Allen doesn't have any hair.
Still frame. One of these is not like the others. And to me, that's a problem, Caitlin. And that's the one that the witness says, oh, yeah, that's him. That's definitely him.
One of these is definitely not like the others, but I am with you all with the idea of an artist rendering of an eyewitness. Eyewitness recollections are sort of scientifically and notoriously
Hi, Ivy Rose. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you coming in. Yeah, I think that could be, I think it could be. I tried to walk out 50 feet today outside, but it's been raining here all freaking day. But it was pretty nice that day. It was 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's maybe a perfect angle. I don't know. It's she's the one that literally saw him on the bridge. So I don't know. What do you think? Who is yours? Does that make any sense to you? Like, I've been reading this shit all day, right? And I don't. She doubled down on it too. She came after them to tell them, law enforcement, that they made a mistake with the sketch because that's not who she saw. She saw a younger guy. Now, who the hell is this younger guy? Is there even a younger guy? And somebody's not. Somebody's wrong.
problematic because we don't remember things as clearly as we think we do. But we have that video. We just looked at it. Sketch by the FBI, the one with the hat. I don't remember sketch 1, sketch 2. I think that was sketch 1. The one with the hat looks like Bridge Guy, and Bridge Guy looks like Richard Allen, particularly subtracting several years from his age to sketch 1. I can definitely see that. But the issue that I have isn't necessarily were the sketches artistically rendered differently, and that is to account from that. 20 years old and curly hair are two completely different points. The guy on the bridge.
I agree with her. First of all, I think witness 4, Betsy Blair, and I've been saying this for the longest time. I think she could have been a victim. Like, if she crosses that bridge, she would have been the victim. Because according to the timeline and the PCA and all of this shit, he actually gets off the bridge and starts to follow her back because he says he goes to sit on a bench. So I think he was at least thinking about attacking her. And I guarantee you, if she goes across that bridge, she's the victim. And the reason why she didn't cross the bridge is because she saw him there. And she's like, no, I'm not going down that bridge now. And then when Abby and Libby showed up, like 2 or 3 minutes later, that's when he broke off the attack on witness 4. But that's just my opinion.
Is wearing a hat. So how you could tell the curly hair, and that guy's clearly much older.
It's a problem. Clearly much older. Clearly. Wasn't Richard Allen like close to 50 at the time?
So that to me is the issue. But the prosecution said from the beginning that they think more people are involved.
All right, Bob, we're out of time. Just give me a number, 0 to 10. How big of a problem is this for the?
It's possible. Maybe he was meeting somebody out. I don't know. It's just. Yeah, I'm skeptical of eyewitnesses too, and that's what the problem is. Like, if people are not going to take her seriously, then that's going to be a problem for the jury, right? Like, eyewitness accounts are notoriously unreliable. So if she says she saw a younger guy with curly hair, And then the prosecution comes back and says, "Are you sure it was a guy with curly hair and not a 5'4" older guy?" And she says, "No, I saw." That's going to be a problem for the juror. That's going to be a problem. That's just my opinion. Who is it? Who was that? All right. So let's see here. What do I want to do now? Stop sharing this. So I'm going to go to switch gears here and go to let's see here, the Rex Heuermann shit, because they had the guy that dresses funny, the lawyer, come out, and I think he was with the police officer there, and they were hold on now, I gotta find it. This is pretty important too. Where is the there it is, got it, sorry. So this is from CBS New York. Let me present this here. So they had a big thing this week out in New York with the lawyer that is representing Shannon Gilbert. He's been representing her since the beginning of this whole case. She was the one that was on the 9/11 tape that was obviously freaked out, scared out of her life, and he's been representing her. So I think what they're trying to do is to say that the wife maybe might have known a little bit more than once was let on about. So here it is.
This is breaking news.
Happening now, a potential update in the Gilgo Beach murders. The attorney for victims in the case is expected to announce new evidence. Let's listen in.
One other station that was late, and they're here. Okay, so then we don't have to wait. I wasn't going to wait anyway, but you know, if they step in, they step in. We might have to go over a few things. I don't know. All right, when you're ready, you tell me, and I'll tell you I'm ready. Good afternoon, everybody. We're here today because new information has arisen in this case from witnesses who were so far unknown.
I really appreciate everybody staying up so late to watch my channel. That's awesome. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, I think that she had the wherewithal to just get the hell out of there, because I think she thought that something was wrong with this guy, and she wanted to get the hell out of there. Witness Betsy Blair, I mean, and Libby and Abby might have actually thought that nothing was wrong, because she might have thought that those two were together. You know what I mean? Abby and Libby might have thought that Betsy Blair and Richard Allen or whoever was there were together, so they didn't think anything of it. All right, so if everybody's this guy here, Rex Heuermann's accused of unaliving 3 kids, 3 people, 3 sex workers, and they're trying to link him to, I think they're trying to link him to Shannon Gilbert now. Shannon Gilbert was also a sex worker, and she's notorious for the 9/11 call that she made. And this is her family's attorney here. He's been on this case for forever. He's a little bit obnoxious, dresses a little weird, but he's a smart guy. And this is, actually forget his name. I should know his name because he was a football player too. It'll come to me. But this is the Sheriff, I think. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Those witnesses, of which there are 4, have given us statements, 2 of whom have given us affidavits regarding this case, regarding Rex Uerman and Shannon Gilbert and Karen Vergata. Before I talk about them, first, I want you to be aware that here stands the commissioner, as you know, with me. And up until now, we have not made it known to the public that we have been working together on this case steadily since the time that I came to know Commissioner Harris a
That's
year
him.
ago, February. We, up until that point,
Commissioner. He's the commissioner.
the police department was very resistant to receiving any kind of evidence or information from my office from what I was doing. That all changed significantly when Commissioner Harris stepped in and we began to collaborate. And we've collaborated ever since. That collaboration has had fruit. And that fruit, at least, are the witnesses I'm going to be talking about today, as well as other evidence and information which we have shared together and with the police department, and therefore with the task force. So it is true to say that our cooperation.
I agree. Again, I think she sensed something was off, and she's probably done that every single day. She probably goes out there to do her, walk, and that day there was just some guy standing there, and she just decided, this is probably not the time to go and do this, and quickly got out of there. As far as Betsy Blair,
Operation has given rise to more substantial, valuable evidence in the entire case of the Long Island serial killer.
No.
So with that in mind, I'm very pleased that.
What kind of a dog is it? You better not be the next case. What kind of dog is it? Yes, be careful, for sure. I could probably be there in about 5 minutes.
That Commissioner Harrison has seen fit to open his mind and to do what I'm suggesting has been done, contrary to all those who have come before him. And he's approaching this case in the right way. He's the right man for the job, and he's done his job well. As to the
this guy here would not be standing with this lawyer, in my opinion, if there wasn't something going on, right? This usually never happens when you have law enforcement with a lawyer. Something's up. They're onto something here with this case.
Witnesses as to the evidence, in no particular order of importance, because so much of it is important. I have stood as a beacon as a civilian beacon to the people who are involved in this case to come and talk where they didn't want to approach the police out of fear.
When it comes to Delphi and a lot of different cases, like oops, back to this.
Fear, out of apprehension, out of a natural, in some cases, a natural distaste for the police department because of the work these people were in. So they would then come to me and speak to me, and I would interview them, and we would then cooperate.
Poodles are tough. Poodles are scary.
Them and the police department. And so with that in mind, the first two witnesses I'm going to talk about are both of them are not Suffolk County residents. I should point out that.
So before I shut my mic off, I was talking about this whole Delphi thing, and I was talking about I did a couple lives ago about the Alex Murdaugh thing, where you just wanted him to go away. He's such a dick. I can't stand the guy. And they did everything they possibly could to put that guy in prison, right? 7 weeks of testimony, trial, and he stuck his foot in his mouth by getting on the stand. So, you just wanted it to be over. You just wanted him to go and get run over by a car, but somebody had to screw up, right? And now he's going to get another trial. That's how I feel about Delphi. Like I just want this person or whoever did this, how many people did this, I could care less. They just need to get their due justice for killing two perfectly good kids. I mean, and I just don't want any problems. I don't want this to go to a jury and then all of a sudden be hung or, acquitted. It's just, I want whoever did this to face the worst penalty they could possibly face in life. That's how I feel about all cases, but especially Delphi.
That we obtained from these two affidavits, their names will go unmentioned. Their names are blotted out of the affidavits, but the affidavits will be available to you right after the press conference. As to the first one I'll talk about, this is a witness who has every reason to have no bias, no interest in the case whatsoever. She was not a sex worker, is not a sex worker, and instead, back in the 90s, in the 1990s, she was what is known then and now as a swinger. She would have a sex partner, and they would go to certain sex clubs in New York City where they would switch partners with other people of like kind. One of the most important places that they would go was called La Trapeze on West 27th Street in New York, right near Rex Uerman's office.
So I think the swinger thing goes all the way back earlier than that. The swinger thing, I think, was late, maybe even mid 80s to mid 90s. And then I think it kind of died out, but
office. And this was a notorious place for swapping, for switching partners. Sometimes several hundred people at a time would be involved in this place in its heyday. Its heyday was in the late 90s, right at the time that Karen Brigada is involved in this case. In this situation, this particular woman was dating a police officer from New York City who was in narcotics, a detective.
I agree, Ivy. Did you go surfing yet, Charlotte?
And they would go to these switchy clubs, these swapping clubs. At a certain time, at or about Valentine's Day of 1996, I believe, the couple went to La Trapeze, and I think it was on the wall at La Trapeze where an advertisement was placed to go to a house in Massapequa Park for partying, for switching, for swapping. She went with her boyfriend out to Long Island, but before they went, her boyfriend picked up a woman in New York, in the city, who had apparently just gotten out of jail, and she was disheveled and hungry, and she was a sex worker. We don't know the details yet of how he came to know her, but he knew her. And she came in the car with the two of them. They went to Massapequa Park. Before they got there, they stopped at a gas station, and the girl who was with them expressed some apprehension about where they were going and why. That was all wiped out when it was pointed out that
this guy here, as weird as he is, has a lot of intelligence, and he's had to kind of figure all of this stuff out by himself, because early on in the beginning of this case, years ago, the police weren't doing anything, and they were corrupt, like corrupt beyond corrupt. When you think of New York, you sometimes think of corrupt police, and that's what was going on here. But these guys took over a couple years ago, and quickly they've literally solved, or have been trying to get rid of some of this cold case crap, and they're doing a fantastic job. But this guy here has kind of been the voice for Shannon Gilbert, and I have a lot of respect for that.
he's a police
Because I don't think he's getting paid. I don't think the family's paying him anything.
detective, so don't worry, no problem. They ended up going to Rex Uhrman's house. In the house was the wife of Rex Uhrman.
Good night, Ivy. Thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it. Winds are all wrong. Oh, yeah, me too. I hope it gets better weather out there for you. I know the weather here sucked. It's awful.
And Rex Uhrman and the other girl. The other girl who we believe to be Karen Vergata. This girl disappears downstairs at the house. Rex Uhrman disappears. And according to our witness and other witnesses I've talked to, when men are swingers with their partner, very often they switch sexually. They go back and forth between male and female. And so Uhrman leaves the main floor and disappears either into another bedroom or downstairs. It's not clear. And the witness talks to Rex's wife.
So this is Karen Vergata. This is, I think this was the last victim, or the latest victim that they found right here. So that's who we just referenced here. So they identified the body that was found in 1996 along Gilgo Beach. So just to let everybody know, that's what he was just referring to. All right, let's go back to this. And I just wanted to pull this up to this is the La Trapeze here. It's a gentleman's club now, or adult club here in New York. Just in case anybody was wondering what that place was. I'll go back to this here. It's just my opinion. This guy's going to be found guilty of all of these, and perhaps more.
Like she had expected to occur, because our client believes, because our client is an African-American woman. And Uhrman didn't like that. Ellerup, rather, didn't like that. So there was no sex between them, as was originally planned. Instead, the sex is between Uhrman and the other man. At some point, the witness goes looking for her partner and is kind of upset that he doesn't emerge. He emerges, and finally they leave, and kind of in a hurry. But when they leave, as they're leaving, the witness points out that she could see in the window looking out the girl that had come with them. And she says to her driver, her partner, "What are we doing? Are we taking her?" And the partner says, "Don't worry. They're just playing a game. She stays there. No problem." With that, the girl.
Can you imagine that? This is horrible.
Girl runs out of the house naked and is running in front of the garage. And now the witness says, "Hey, shouldn't we be taking her? Something's wrong here." And the driver tells her, "Nah, they're just playing a game. Leave it."
He's horrible. Rex Heuermann is just absolutely horrible. Innocent until proven guilty, but I think it's a pretty done deal.
And they leave. She never hears about the incident again. She distinctly remembers Heuermann. She also had intercourse with Heuermann that same day. And she kind of buries it, forgets about it. Until on TV, she sees the picture of Karen Vagata. And she recognizes her and said, "That's her." And she recognizes Rex Heuermann. And so she comes forward, and I meet her. I interview her at great length. I also had the police department. We arranged for detectives to interview her. And I found her story. I interviewed her for 3 times for a total of 9 hours. And I found her story to be credible. She also mentioned that Rex would go out in the backyard and start a fire at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning in a big barrel that was outside in the back. And she was worried about that too, that it would attract police. Anyway, she seemed credible. She appears to be credible. And she was willing to sign an affidavit to that effect. And that affidavit will be available to everybody. In the details I've just told you, you will find there. The second witness who's come forward. This woman is not a sex worker, never was. She's not a switcher or swapper. She's not involved in any sexual activities whatsoever. She has nothing to gain by coming forward. She's not looking for a book or money or the usual things that you're hearing about out there. None of that. But she came forward because she's very disturbed about what she knows after she also saw Rex Heuermann on television and Shannon Gilbert. And here's her story. She is a banker by day, and at night she worked extra in Suffolk County as a taxi driver to take care of her family. It was a one-parent family. As a taxi driver, she is called from her dispatcher to go to the Sayville Motor Lodge on Sunrise Highway, that infamous place that the commissioner here busted a year ago, and for prostitution and other illegal activities. She's called to go to that place, and that there's a girl awaiting her who's locked in a bathroom and will come out if she flashes her lights and beeps the horn. And she goes there and does that several times. It doesn't work. But then suddenly a giant man who fits the description of Rex Heuermann comes out, and he's covering his face with his arms so he can't be seen. And he runs to a van or an SUV right nearby that's parked right there. She continues to flash her lights and beep her horn, and out comes a girl crying, shaking, very upset, and gets in her car. There they talk for a while, and then eventually they drive to the Ronkonkoma Railroad Station so that this girl can go back in to New York City. This girl was a sex worker who was servicing the big man, and the man had seduced her into coming to Sayville by several times over the telephone, convincing her that he was just a nice man who was going to help and work with her to help her family, her mother, her sisters.
Don't ever fall for it. Just don't ever fall for it. It's not, if it sounds too good to be true, chances are it is.
And her boyfriend. Shannon has a mother, sisters, and a boyfriend at that time.
It's just disgusting. It's just absolutely horrible. Just absolutely,
Time. She had her hair pulled back, and because she often wore wigs. This girl turns out to be Shannon Gilbert.
Oh my God.
Now Shannon is lured into doing this particular tryst, and she's given an envelope, or shown an envelope by the man that looked like it was stuffed full of money. And he tells her there's $1,000 in there. It's for you and your family no matter what happens tonight. She looks in the envelope.
Now you know why his house looked like dog crap, because he was too busy spending money trying to lure these girls. I mean, that's just my opinion.
When he goes to the bathroom and it's stuffed with paper. And so she panics and realizes something's wrong. So she goes in the bathroom, and he had become very aggressive, very angry. She goes in the bathroom, locks the door, and calls to get a cab. And that's how she comes out. They speak for over an hour. So the driver knows her well and notices that she has a drooping eye, which is characteristic of Shannon, and also a characteristic of her family, by the way, going back for
the story of all of them are sad ones, but the story of Shannon Gilbert is like it's horrible, sad.
Generation or two. And so she notices that, and it helps her to remember Shannon when she sees her later on. That's the first part of the story. It doesn't end there. This is part two. Several days or weeks later, it's not clear, and this is all occurring in the fall of 2009. This is all occurring.
Let's see, 2009. What the hell was I doing in 2009? I wouldn't be able to tell you.
The driver gets another call from the same dispatcher and says that there's a man named Matt who she's to pick up right off of exit 59 in the expressway.
Has everybody heard the 9/11 call? I'll play it if you want. I don't know if anybody's ever heard it. It's just, like I try to tell people all the time, don't ever get in anybody's car. I don't care if you're stranded or not. I don't care if, once you're inside a vehicle, you're basically defenseless. I tell my daughters that all the time. And then if something sounds too good to be true, chances are it is. So don't fall for it. It's just not, it's not going to work.
And he would be at a bar that was there by, I guess, Ocean Avenue, somewhere over there. She goes there, pulls up on a side street between the bar and a house right next to it, and she sees a girl in a window.
Yeah, I definitely don't like listening to that. It's just it aggravates me that it doesn't seem like she was getting too much help from 9/11 either. But it's a horrible thing to listen to. It just is.
So, and then she sees to the right of her a huge man rising up, coming to the car. He's dressed in camouflage, and he leans in and then jumps in the back seat, sits on the edge and leans over and starts talking to her. And she's watching him very carefully in the mirror. And she recognizes him as the same guy that was at the motel a little while before. And she now knows him to be, she recognizes him from the media as Rex Heuermann. He says to her that he wants her to take him on a long trip into the woods. In other words, he changed the destination she had been told, which caused her immediately to become suspicious. And he was very.
Yeah, I agree with you, Miracle Heart. She just, you can tell that she was frightened out of her mind. Like she's, plus I don't think she was. I think they might have roofied her or something, but she didn't sound right at all. But she was also very, very deeply disturbed. She just wanted some help, and I don't think that they were really going out of their way to help her.
Upset, very angry, and he began to dispute with her when she said, "I'm not going on a long trip anywhere." And with that, he gets extremely angry and threatens to kill her and tells her, "I already want to kill you. Just give me a reason." And he had a gun, a handgun. She says, "I'm not going anywhere at this point." And she turns off the car and she says, "You can have the keys. You can have my money, whatever you want. Just let me go. I'll let you have whatever you want." With that, her dispatcher is on the radio and he says out loud, "We know, we see you, we hear you, we can tell who you are." And the man panics, gets out of the car. She's then able to drive away. She encounters a police car coming the other way. She believes that the police officer was called by a 911 caller on that issue. Could have been the girl who was in the house right next door from where she was. But comes the police driving slowly with his lights off. She tells him the story. And the man had on a lanyard with a...
Agreed. You just want to roll back time and you try to help out as much as you possibly
placard
can.
of some kind, as if he were a police officer. And she asked him, "Are you a cop?" And he said, "Yes." She said, "From where?" He said, "Brooklyn." With those facts in mind, she tells the police officer who's driving, "There's one of yours back there, and it looks like he's had a bad day. So you better go see what's what." Words to that effect. She later on hears from her dispatcher that this man, went into the woods and fired off his pistol twice. And she recognizes him very clearly to be Rex Uerman when she sees him. So she's given us this affidavit as well. There's a pattern that's developing here of Rex Uerman being somebody who tracks down people and haunts them. And
He's a psychopath. He literally is. And the disturbing thing is how these people can be so different one minute to the next, right? Like, and I know this whole thing has been thrown out there so many times, referring back to the BTK Dennis Radar, but it's that, to me, that's the most bizarre thing, is these people just know when to flip that switch and become normal people to everybody else, but in the meantime are just psychopaths.
Shannon Gilbert would therefore be no exception. Now, the third witness has not given a statement yet. The third witness contacted me from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And that witness clearly recalls being picked up. She was a street walker. She gets picked up by Rex Uerman. You
just want these people to resist arrest. You know what I mean? When they get arrested. That way, you don't have to deal with courts, all of that stuff. You're just hoping they resist.
In Queens, and he drives, I think, near the big center there in Queens, and he drives her into a park in Flushing, where he makes her keep her head down at all times, commit oral sex, and then he has a pistol in his hand and tells her, "Get out of the car or I'm going to kill you. And don't do anything except what I tell you to do or I'm going to kill you." So she gets out of the car and he tells her, before she does, he tells her, "I want you to pick up another person, another customer." She gets out of the car and immediately pulls up another SUV and a man driving it, an African-American man. And the guy that picks her up is white. And she gets in the other guy's car. And the driver, Rex Uerman, follows the car. They go. Finally get out of the car because she panics and pulls the wheel because she sees a cop car coming. So the cop sees them go jaggedy off the road and the cop stops them. The cop then goes back, talks to Rex and the other driver who gets out and walks back. Cop comes back and tells her, "Lady, if you want to make a complaint, you have to go to the precinct," and drives away. That's her story. She also has no reason. She refuses to come forward. She refuses to have herself identified. I know her name. I know her address. I've given it to the police. They're aware of it, and presumably they're investigating it. You see the pattern. There's a pattern of a guy who likes to play kind of sporting games with the sex workers, chases them, haunts them, hunts them. That's what we're looking at here, we believe, anyway. The fourth witness, and I'll finish on that.
Just sicko, just an absolute sick human being.
She comes from another state, and she's contacted me as well. I have very lengthy notes and recordings of what we discussed.
No doubt.
She was a sex worker for many years, back in the time when all of these killings were occurring, and she serviced Rex Heuermann. She said that she would service Rex Heuermann over 20 times, and that he was a serial user of sex workers. He would sometimes have them come 2 at a time to his house, and his wife was home upstairs.
That house? Really? I would never walk into that house, ever. That house looks like something out of like a gory Halloween movie. I would never ever walk into that house. No thanks.
And in one instance, got very angry at one of the sex workers because the wife believed that the worker had stolen an iron from, for ironing clothes, and had it in the car with the driver. So the driver had to get out. Everybody had to search the car. There was no iron. But the wife knew about it and knew about, obviously, what was going on in order for that to happen. So she says that in her experience with Heuermann, he was never impolite. He was always nice. He was always funny. He treated her well, and there was no violence. But he certainly had contact with Rex constantly for a period of several years.
Yeah, I don't like to blame family a lot, but in this case here, I just think the wife knows more than she's saying. It's just like, it's hard for me to believe that she doesn't.
That's as much as I'm able to tell you. There's plenty of other new evidence, which I think it will take too long at this press conference to discuss. There's plenty of new other evidence that's similar in kind and consistent with the kinds of things that I've just described to you. So with that thought, I'm hoping that the police department will continue.
See, before these guys, Rodney Harrison and the DA got involved here a couple of years ago, this guy has had to do this all by himself. So he does a lot of this stuff pro bono, so to speak. So, hats off to him. Tracking down all these people, getting them to talk. You got to love it. I wanted to get into the Natalie Holloway case tonight, but I'm not going to be able to do that. So maybe on another live. I mean, that's good. More good news. Excuse me.
Continue
with somebody confessing to that,
along with the task force, that they will continue to look into these things, investigate them thoroughly, make the synapses that haven't been made so far, connect them up and connect the dots, as it were. And I think we're getting to where we want to go. Lastly,
yeah, there's no doubt he's a despicable human being, and I hope he gets everything that's coming to him. I really do. Yeah, I've been on to the wife for a while. She's a little weird in my opinion, and
I am still working on this case. Today, I took Joseph Brewer's deposition, the John for Shannon Gilbert. I just finished it and came here. I'm still actively pursuing this case on my own, as well as cooperating with the police department and the task force. But for people out there,
they're trying to flush somebody out. That's what I think is going on here. This guy here, Rodney Harrison, the commissioner, would not be standing here with this lawyer if something wasn't up. There's something going on. and they're trying to get somebody to come forward.
Who have information and are afraid to come forward to the police. They can talk to me. They can reveal whatever they want. I will reveal it to no one. I reveal these things with their permission, the things that I told you about. But anybody else that still has information, I'm available. My door is open. My phones are open. I can help you. Thank you.
The information presented about Karen Vergara, she's the first known victim of the serial killer. Does this lead you to make Rex Heuermann the prime suspect in her murder in 1996?
I don't want to make Rex Heuermann the prime suspect. I will say this, and I'll share this over and over again. The creation of the task.
I have a lot of respect for this guy too. This guy here is just absolutely freaking awesome.
Task force got us into a good place of being able to identify Rex for 3 of the sex workers that were discovered, and we're looking very good for the 4th one.
Agreed.
But we also added 2 more investigators to the task force to take this type of information in and to pursue it, to follow it, to see if this is credible. That's very important, and that's why people don't understand. When I first came into this position, I sat down with John Ray, myself and the members of the task force, to have that conversation about information that he may have, and let's make sure we're putting a dragnet out there regarding any information that's coming to us. That's why I'm going to continue my partnership with John. And if people have a reluctancy to come forward to law enforcement and they want to go to John Ray, then it's important that we take this information and then we follow forward with furthering the investigation. So it's still an ongoing investigation. So I'll leave it at that. But once again, is this: we have the information, we're working it, and we'll see where it leads us down the road.
And you're saying to us earlier, you're going to leave no stone unturned, and the fact that
The initial commissioner and the initial big brass that were in charge here, I don't think they're directly involved, but I don't think that I don't think they were doing anything in their power to stop this from happening. Let's put it that way. I think that they conveniently turned a blind eye to this whole swinger thing, everything that was going on underneath their noses. I definitely think that's possible.
there possibly were affidavits that you can use to possibly find future victims.
Absolutely, and that's a very good question, and that's why I stand here today with John Ray. If people don't want to use our Crime Stoppers hotline, and they feel a lot more comfortable going to John Ray or anybody else, I want to make sure that people understand that we have a job here as law enforcement, as the Suffolk County Police Department, to make sure we investigate every single complaint or interest in this case. Make sure that we look under every single stone to see if there is any connection to Rex Heuermann, or if there is a connection to somebody else that may be involved with the bodies that were discovered on Ocean Parkway.
You heard about or known about the affidavits before today? What's the time frame?
So we could go about a month and a half, depending on 2 months.
This is the type of case here, though, that you can pretty much guarantee you that this is some sort of a ring happening here. There's a lot of different parts involved in this, where you have the connection guy, you have the actual guy that's doing it, you have the the Johns that are setting everything up. I think this is more of a compact case than people think.
Depending on each one. For one of the affidavits, I was actually sat down with the person myself. That just shows you my vested interest in it. Listen, this is something that's very important to me. I'm going to continue to grind to make sure anybody that had an interaction with our defendant, Rex Heuermann, is held accountable in this case.
Because in my opinion, they're all just as guilty. They're all just, whoever had a hand in. I mean, these are how these things work. They get somebody to believe in them. It's a whole network of people that are involved in this, and every single person that was involved in this that got these girls to go and get unalived is responsible. Period.
The delivery cab driver, the taxi cab driver. Yeah. That's the one with Shannon Gilbert. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Anybody else?
What year was that? 2007 or 9? 2009.
The taxi driver is 2009, the fall of 2009, and she is not absolutely certain of the time frame, but that's where it approximates.
And that's where, Mary, that's where we're going to make sure we're doing our job and trying to nail down time frames, look at radio runs and other things that could help us kind of pinpoint if there's any credibility to these complaints that came forward.
And the commissioner did send 2 detectives.
Yeah, they didn't get any help from the previous 2 administrations over there. They didn't. I mean, none of these families got anything really. Not saying all of the cops were bad there, but definitely the top in command.
To interview the other witness with me, which we did already, and at length.
This guy right here is going to arrest all of them. This guy here, and the DA. These guys are going to. It's my opinion. These guys are going to arrest them all.
Did any of these witnesses explain why they didn't come forward for now?
Yes.
Was it immediately when they saw restroom and picture?
Yeah, it was certainly a question we had to ask. We have to ask many questions to test credibility. And I'm not saying that people would necessarily lie, although they might, but that they don't remember or they mix up facts with other situations. We had to test all of those things. And so we had to test that too. And in the one case with the witness with the swapping, it bothered her that they left behind this girl, but she had no other reason to think anything of it until she saw this. She actually broke down. She couldn't believe it when she saw the picture and knew that girl. And that happened there. With the taxi driver, the taxi driver did report it. The taxi driver, back when this originally happened, she talked to her, her cousin was a cop. She spoke to her family. She spoke to other taxi drivers. She told a lot of people about it. And then she did contact Crime Stoppers and report it and actually talked to them twice, but nobody called her back. So that's long before the commission.
That figures. I mean, that just figures. That's like the icing on the cake.
That was involved. So she did come forward and she said, well, when it got reactivated, the issue, then she called me. Okay.
All right. So I've been here. I cannot believe I've been here 2 hours and 46 minutes. Just where does time go? Anyways, I'm gonna get the hell out of here. I might come on a little later and do another live. I'm gonna go over the Natalie Holloway case, but we'll see. I'm not sure. I want to thank everybody for coming in. I want to thank Charlotte, Miracle Hearts, Ivy Rose. I think Hoosier was here for a while too. Thank you, Hoosier Cold Case. Appreciate it. Hoosier is awesome. If you don't know who he is, he's got a great channel. Hoosier is great person. Him and Kristen. Kristen's awesome. Kristen behind the crime door. She's great. Yeah, but women are smarter. Women are. Marv was here too. Yes, Marv was here. Marv is awesome too. Marv's got a great channel. I wish I could put all of their things in the chat. I just don't know how to do that. But Hoosier Cold Case, Kristen, True Crime Web, Mob Crew, all of those guys, they're all great. Karen was in here too. Karen Lee was in here. Karen's probably over on Manimal's page now. She's a moderator over there. So I just want to thank everybody for coming here. I hope everybody has a great weekend. If I don't see you later, Charlotte's awesome too. And just stay safe, everybody. And that's it. Have a great night, everybody. Play my outro, and then I'll get the hell out of here. Let's see if I can do this here. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Miracle Hearts. Thank you for coming in.